right, Teledoctor. Let me just use your sanitizer. It looks very trustworthy, yeah? Oh yeah, LL. Okay.
Yes.
Like I said, it's great to meet you and great to be here.
Okay, thank you. And just to confirm that I can pronounce your name correctly. Olanimas.
Okay.
Olanimas or Olanimas.
Yeah.
Olanimas. So, thank you, Olanimas. And I'm also happy to be here and to talk to you and just to see what we can tell our plans out there and see what opportunities exist at Teledoctor. So I'm very excited to be part of this discussion.
Let me start. Teledoctor, I want to know about morning after pills. How safe are they?
Yeah, it's an important question and difficult one to answer, because as a doctor, I am torn between allowing free use of contraceptives and protecting especially young people from being abused and also ruining their lives. So that's the thing that I fear. But speaking generally from a medical and scientific point of view, contraception, there are short-term, there are long-term contraceptives. And so people have to decide the need that they have. And so for the long terms, for the ones that have had enough kids and they don't want to have kids, they can use long-term contraceptives. And then there are short-term ones that can last a month or so, and people a few months can take the tablets and then they can prevent pregnancy. Then there are those that people use in an emergency, and there's a legitimate use for those as well. People who are married or unmarried and they feel that they have exposed themselves when they are not ready to fall pregnant, they can use those to try and prevent pregnancy. And so as a scientist and as a doctor, those are the uses. And I think the question that arises now is, who is eligible to use those? I think the discussion can be open, but I feel from the point of view, anyone who needs them should have access when they need them, because we can't start preaching morals when it's already happened.
All right, Dr. Wilbrod, a few weeks ago, you were live on Facebook and you spoke about Corona, right? I asked a question during your live session, which I'm about to ask with more detail. Okay, so since Corona affects the throat, how safe is it to be taking a shot of whiskey or gargling it as a sanitizer for the throat? Yeah?
I think to me, and by the way, I'm both a clinician and also a scientist, a research scientist. So let me answer you as a research scientist on this one.
Yeah.
So I think I mentioned even on the chat we had that
you spoke about wasting whiskey.
No, yeah, that's the point, is there enough evidence that when you gargle whiskey, I think some president in the US was saying maybe you can even try bleach and what. Is there evidence that this can work? So I think to me it falls into the same kind of non-proven intervention, and that people are trying to drink and hope that they can prevent disease. We don't have evidence for that whisk actually prevents the coronavirus.
Okay.
And so I'll tell people that I think the things that we know exist. Wear your mask. Wear your mask. Make sure that you sanitize. And there's inhalation of eucalyptus, not whiskey. Yeah. But you see, in Zambia, people are so clever, they want to find shortcuts for everything. But my point is that you could be using it. But from me as a scientist, I tell you that we don't have any proven evidence that it works. That means you can be overconfident, you are hoping that it is helping, when in fact not. So I would just caution that we don't have the evidence that that's what whiskey does. But for any alcohol-based agent has got potential to be used to kill bugs. The idea would just be how much alcohol there is. And that's why I said I think you can use it for washing hands if the alcohol content is high. But I think that there's use for whiskey. And we have got enough sanitizers we can use, which we know work with a good alcohol content.
So this place, this location, for you to call it Woodlands Specialist Clinic, what do you specialize in at this health center?
Yeah, so Teledoctor is in partnership with several clinics. And one of them is Woodland Specialist Clinic, where all specialists that you need to see can see you from there. And so for us at Teledoctor and Woodlands Clinic in partnership, you just ask us what you want. So most of the common one, we have got what we know as one of our specialization is rheumatology. So this has to do with swollen joints, swollen fingers and things like that. And people have got pain all over the place. Okay, this mostly arthritis, that's what people know commonly. But we call it rheumatology. So we have got a rheumatologist here at Woodlands Clinic, and then they can see you. We also have got obstetricians and gynecologists. We have got urologists and many others that I think that, and the idea is to provide quick access to these cadres who you need to make appointments to see in the clinics, in the normal clinics for a long time. But for us, once you get through, we are able to ask if they're available, they can see you there. Yeah.
One last thing before I leave you to do your work, I will ask you this in your capacity as a researcher, right? Some of the herbs we're using in our homes, is it safe to be using some flu preventing herbs to prevent corona as well?
You mean like some kind of herbal or some flu meds that they sell in the farm?
I'm referring to home remedies like
Ukufutikila.
Yeah, yes. That's the word. The use of guava leaves and other accessible leaves, maybe from a neighbor's yard.
So, good question. So, muchimemba na mitundu yengi vala bomfya okufutikila utandati okufutikila na kuchipata na wali kwa tama wensi yabo babomfya. But ichikalamba chakwe bati twalishi bokutila omuntu kwete nangu fever ngafutikila filo kupiba kwa isa mu mubiri. It helps them to get better, and the explanation is simple there, that you make your body hot and you can kill some bugs. And then you can burn if there are some bugs there. Airway, which is a corona thing, is that the corona would prevent you from breathing properly. So it will cause congestion in the lungs. So when you want to breathe, the air doesn't go in well because it has formed what we call mucus, two small things, what menshi mulya mukati, to block our airways. So nga mwafutikila nangu mule pema uliomwela uwakaba ulea mkati, if you ule chitauda mwela, it is actually making those hard particles in the airways there that we call the mucus to become thinner so that air can enter better. So we have to decide what chemicals we use. If we drink dangerous things, it can help to make those mucus thin, but it can also poison you. And that's your point, speaking to your point. And so I know that some Luena is a type of, it smells like Colgate or something like this. It's a very common one that they use traditionally. That's what I know, and I've used when I was young, and I use this time actually. I also inhale like this one, but also eucalyptus oil. And there's evidence now, to speak as a scientist, that this method of inhalation, for every you go for about 5 minutes, then you take a break, and like that, they have shown that patients did better who had this corona when they did that particular. And so even the president of Zambia mentioned this, and many people, and there are also literature that is coming up showing that there's support that this really works. And so for us, we would encourage people to use things that we know, eucalyptus oil, ruena, but let's avoid fintu, lunsonga, what. Those things we don't know what the contents are. And so my advice is that let's not kill ourselves when we are doing a good thing. Yeah. So let's use what we think eucalyptus oil is good, ruena, and other things that we know can be used safely. But the other things that we are adding, I wouldn't advise, because it can be unplugging the mucus but also killing you. So when you die, we won't even know what has killed you. Is it coronavirus or the chemicals that you inhaled? And so let's be safe in these things, because sometimes also in Zambia, people likes to stretch things, overstretch. You give them a small step, they go like several steps. I think the steps we are saying you can inhale with eucalyptus or rowan and other things like this, but please don't overdo.
Oh, so it means we can food tequila with wrong substances as well, right?
And that can poison you in the end, and that we should avoid.
I hear you. Okay, so Doc, I have too many questions, but I know that you need to work, you need your workspace. But then as I get out of here, I had boarded a bus at Kulimata on my way to here. I have my sanitizer bottle, but I noticed that others were getting on board the same bus. The seats were being touched anyhow. I don't know how often or how frequently those seat tops are cleaned every day.
Yes, so what's the problem there now?
Okay, my problem is we attempted to maintain some social distancing, but when entering the minibus or elsewhere, when using a staircase, opening a door, maybe you can sensitize us on how to look after ourselves more.
Yeah, so the minibuses really get to me. And somehow, I think that was after the MMD government came in power, there was this shift to empower people, which is a good thing for people to have their own minibuses, their own buses, the private sector driven is a good initiative. But the types of buses that you use matter. If you go, even in South Africa, they had this fight, but basically if you go to Europe or elsewhere, people do have bigger minibuses or bigger buses to transport people, students and other people. But here I see this to my small, here's ICE, you call them ICE or high ES or something, and they pack like 16, 20 people together. And if you have worked in the hospital, if those flip, we receive so many broken bones. So even away from Corona. And I found some of the drivers are drunk, some of the conductors are drunk, and they are driving at a very faster speed. And so it's not just a risk for coronavirus, but for death, for any other thing. So it's a public health thing we need to deal with to find safer modes of transport. It's something that I've been crying for, and I hope somebody is going to hear, that we need to change. We cannot be using those smaller things. It's not safe for the public. Now, Corona has come on top of that thing. The things have no big windows and everyone is clustered together, and it's quite a dead place inside there, and you never know who it is that you are sitting next to because you just batch together. And to me, it's really difficult to sanitize, even to stay like distant apart. And so these are some things that I think as leadership in this country, they need to look at. Because we say social distancing, but then the people can't physically social distance because they are in a clustered minibus. So standards have to change, and it can be annoying and creating noise, but from the public health point of view, those are not safe things. Meantime, if we can't do away with them, what can we do? We just have to remember to wear masks, make sure to sanitize when you go in and when you come out. And for the minibus drivers to get there, you could actually fumigate your car at the end of your trip. You fumigate that car or at the end of the day, so that when you start the new day, even the chairs, you can clean them up, okay? Also, as clients are entering into that place, if they don't have sanitizer, you could actually let them use the sanitizer for the minibus when they're getting there, okay? And they should wear masks all the time. And for the conductors, try to avoid shouting, because shouting is like singing, so you spread the bug if you've got it. And then for those that are not well, including passengers and also drivers, they should not come for work until they get better. If they have got corona, they can't come for work because they will be now super spreaders inside their own minibuses, okay? But I think in the long term, we need to get bigger minibuses, well ventilated, that can carry as many people. It will decongest the roads, it will also be safe, but it will also help us prevent corona. So quite some controversial discussion, but important from the public health point of view.
Thank you for your time, Teledoctor.
Thank you so much, Olanimas.
Yeah, sure. One time. Teledoctor.